Okay, so we got to have Power to the People Raw, and as you know, I'm looking around trying to find where my Nexus armband went. Of course, this being one of the best times probably to wear a Nexus armband. And I'm currently unable to locate it, which probably means a disgruntled John Cena fan came in here and probably took it. Because ironically, I was kind of right with some of my predictions last night after Capital Punishment. But anyways, we'll go through this. I don't know how much time people were given to actually vote, and most of the options given were actually kind of poor. Starting one was, of course, for a Divas Championship match, with the options being Eve, Kelly Kelly, and Beth Phoenix. And Kelly Kelly, of course, won that, which then led to a relatively abysmal match between whichever Bella had the belt and Kelly Kelly, where she won, making her the new Divas champion. So I guess congratulations to Kelly Kelly. I guess they needed something with Karma out of the picture. I actually have to have someplace else because, this is one of those ones where unless you were keeping notes while you were watching Raw, it seemed really, really random. Second match got to be choose the opponent for Evan Bourne. Swagger, Mason Ryan, or Sin Cara. I'll be honest, if I would have voted, I probably would have voted for Sin Cara. Ends up being Mason Ryan, who soundly defeats Evan Bourne. Evan Bourne puts in a really good match, but at the end of the day, he loses to whatever the finishing move Ryan does. Okay. Mark Henry versus Kane, the options being body slam match, arm wrestling match, or over the top rope challenge. Again, I probably would have voted for either a body slam match since Capital Punishment, Henry put Show through a table. No, instead it was an arm wrestling match, which ended in a no contest. And then Henry just began to decimate Kane. It's good, they're doing something with Henry. Henry's promo about him being one of the world's strongest men worked. It worked beautifully well. All of a sudden they seem to be writing some pretty decent promos. Essentially you had 3 solid promos. Actually, you could say 4 if you say both of Punk's promos were individual promos, but I'll get those closer towards his match and towards the end of what I thought was actually probably one of the better sorts of things. Then they did a U.S. title match. 3 options. Vicky Band from ringside, 2 out of 3 falls in submission. Ironically, 2 out of 3 falls, probably the best one they could have gone for with this. And of course, Kofi wins, but since the last fall was done by DQ, Ziggler retains the title. Okay, that was actually really solid. Probably one of the really solid matches they had this night while doing another Super Show. I have to scroll down again. Alright, here we go. One half of the double main event. Punk came out in the beginning and said that he should be the #1 contender. And he should. He beat John Cena and he beat Rey Mysterio. General Manager tells him to leave. He goes, no, I'm going to do Snow Angels. Epic. Just, Punk, people say he's getting buried, but I'll be honest, when he's on that mic, it is gold. And then goes, fine, he'll take on Del Rio. He's like, I'll beat Del Rio, no big deal. He'll take on Mysterio as well, a triple threat match. Why Mysterio gets involved in that, since he's lost his match last night, I guess they couldn't do, well, you can't have 2 heels face each other. Of course you have 2 heels face each other. If the 2 heels are going to, if the winner goes on to take on a face, does it matter if they're 2 heels? And of course the options for that were false count anywhere, no DQ or submission. False count anywhere. Of course, the match ended inside the ring, so the false count anywhere really didn't help that much, except for when Punk went to go for the pin on Del Rio after Sunset the Powerbomb. But Punk got it. So July 19th in Chicago for Money in the Bank, he's taking on John Cena. And then he mentioned it will be his last night in WWE for his WWE contract. So if he happens to win, he said he's going to leave that Monday and no longer be a WWE superstar. Now, he has mentioned that he's kind of getting burned out, so he wants to take time off. That's actually fairly legit. Does his contract actually end on that day? I don't know. It might end sometime near there. It might end the day before. But Punk has mentioned he does want to take some time off, just to kind of get some nagging injuries, to have all this stuff taken care of, and to come back fresh and better. So he's taking the right, it's the Jericho approach. You know, go about as far as you can, then take some time off, and then go back. Beautiful strategy. They also had Cody Rhodes taking on Bryan Daniels, or Daniel Bryan. I'm probably also going to get his name confused from his, Ring of Honor glory days. Options for that were paper bag match, no countout, or collegiate rules. Who picked what sort of match types to have? Ended up being no countout, which, since you can't get a pinfall outside the ring, seems kind of pointless. I mean, you can brutalize your opponent on the outside, but then you have to drag their body into the ring to pin them. And of course, Bryan won that, which then led to the DiBiase beatdown afterwards. Crossroads, and then the putting a bag on his head. We also noticed too that Cody Rhodes doesn't have new music. It's the Smoke and Mirrors music played ridiculously slow. Now we're down to the other part of the main event, and again, probably one of the greatest promos they've done in a long time. R-Truth came out and did his standard, all these horrible things are happening to me, it's a conspiracy. Christian came out and was like, I think that was bad. Look what happened to me. I have my foot underneath the ropes. I should get another shot. R-Truth's like, another shot? How many shots you had? It doesn't matter. What matters is, I have a legitimate complaint as to you. Then the Miz comes down. And the Miz was like, hey, you know what? I got screwed in my match. So they're all going back and forth about how horrible it is to be in their shoes. Which then led to, how dare you? How dare I? How dare you? So all three of them are doing a how dare I, how dare you, which then goes into a really, 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 Riley, really, Riley, Randy, Riley, Randy, Riley, Randy, Riley, Jimmy, 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 Jimmy. And you have to find this on YouTube. Their back and forth was ridiculous. It was fantastic. The amount of time it had to get those guys to do that in that perfect sequence, amazing. Then along comes down and says there's going to be a 6-man tag match, with the options being 1 fall to a finish, 20-minute time limit match? Who would ever want to see a main event with a time limit? And then elimination. So you have R-Truth, Christian, Orton, taking on the team of Cena, Orton, and then Alex Riley. First one to get eliminated, Riley. Great, cool, works nice. And it was like, I like this. This works. Huh, that's really weird. This person actually has it written down as winner via spear. And none of those guys actually use a spear. That's really bizarre. Okay. So, really great back and forth. And of course, John Cena has to win because that's just how John Cena wins. And he wins the first by getting a tap out. But, the fact that you saw just about everybody hit a finisher, it was, Miz hit a finisher on Riley if Riley gets pinned. Then they take out R-Truth. Then Miz gets taken out, and as soon as the Miz is done being eliminated, then Christian eliminates Orton. Then as Christian's like, that's right, I pinned you. He gets eliminated by John Cena. I'll be kind of honest, the last week's 3-hour Raw didn't feel like a 3-hour Raw. It felt like it was Raw with like an hour of additional talking. This one actually felt pretty good, Some of the options weren't really that great, but all in all, very solid, The micro they did with Henry, R-Truth, Christian, Miz, all very solid. What they're doing with Punk, if they actually put the title on Punk and then have him leave, that is a tremendously huge storyline. You have him leave as champion, then when he comes back, you say, you know what? I never lost it. I am the true WWE champion. It'd be a beautiful thing to have them actually work out. And of course, next week is Raw Roulette. Are we in Sweeps Week? Sweeps Month? Could you go from a 3-hour Raw with Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was All-Star Raw, to a Power to the People Raw, to a Raw Roulette? Anyways, this was coming off the heels of a fairly lackluster Capital Punishment. By far, this was a very, very solid Raw.